Hey, good morning, folks. We are going to continue working on artwork here for the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book that we've been working on here for the past year. Let's see. Give me a second here to check my signal, and then we'll get into 100 minutes of fun. So, checking signal here. Waiting for it to populate. Blah, 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 blah. Waiting for it to populate. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Okay, cool. Let's see. Beep, beep, beep. Beep. Get into my intro spiel here, and then we'll get to work. So, comma, place. Okay, cool. So, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements. I publish them, I illustrate them, and then publish them online. I've been focusing my attention here on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past number of years, and there are a slew of links in the description down below to works that I've created previously. They're all free previews. So if you're here for the artwork, there's probably about 150 different illustrations across the various books that I have published down there that you are certainly welcome just to take a look at. If you are a D&D 5e enthusiast, hold on real quick, beep, then you can. The stuff that I have in there is meant both for DMs as well as players. I've designed stuff to be used from level 1 to 20. So be welcome to check it out. If you think this stuff is cool, consider making a purchase to support growth of the channel. In addition, you can follow on Twitter to get notifications of when I go live. Such as this, I've just posted that I'm live here on Twitter X. So if you're part of that platform still, be welcome to follow me at Phil Kearney. Best way to support the growth of the channel overall is to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We are on our way to getting to 500 subscribers, hopefully by the end of the month. If you find anything that we do here valuable or entertaining, please consider supporting with a subscription to this channel to encourage more misbehavior. So, as I said, I create role-playing games. I illustrate and then publish them. So here's the process of that is you come up with an idea, you kick out some words to make sure the ideas make sense, play test it to see if it's fun, and if it is, you hire an editor, send it off, it comes back, and then here we're showing laid out the book so that the text fits on pages prettily. We tend to try to organize information into packets so that each page is individually digestible. And once we have all the layouts taken care of on a book, we'll, like for instance, then export this as a PDF. We then import it into Photoshop, into the PDF, and then we start painting on it. This book cover we created back around episode 15, and we're now at episode 236. So go ahead and to the Wayback Machine at the beginning of the Spelljammer playlist I have on my channel here, Phil Kearney. You can see the creation of this cover. But once we're in the interior here, we upload the page into Photoshop, and then we begin illustrating it. So that is where we're going to pick up from where we had last left off. We were working on asteroids and this. If my mouse can work, there you go. Whoa, hey there, buddy. Let's back out a little bit there. Thank you. Yeah, let's look at our reference images that we're using, which are other images that we've created inside the book, as well as the token schematics that we've made for the new fighter craft that we have here, as well as a night spider ship. These things are 200 feet in size, and we see one lurking here in the distance behind the asteroids. And then we have a spiderling craft here that we have in the foreground. So we're going to play with asteroids for a little bit, just to warm up the pen, and then we're going to continue working on this spiderling firecraft that is menacing this crew aboard this ship, which isn't fully. Obviously, you can't really see what ship they're on because of the scale that we're working at. But it is a galleon. Let's scoot you over a touch. Actually, you know what? We can just blank those out all together right now. Let's do that. Let's grab this. Let's just book that out. We'll go down here. We're going to work on asteroids. We got a timer going, so we're going to get a 10 minutes or so worth of just some asteroid warm up. Here for now. So let's see, what's the pens I want to use here? And then we're going to switch to a razor. Having these asteroids drifting off frame into the text is a lot of fun. I can have I could have this little spot art of asteroids floating all over this game. Honestly, there's a number of pockets inside of the text that don't allow for an actual illustration, but still have negative space, like just blank canvas space regardless, that could potentially be filled with like little flotsam and chunks like this floating all over the place. And that might be fun to explore when we start putting when we finally get all the major illustrations that we have planned. I only have like maybe 4 or 5 more significant illustrations to finish before we're basically done with illustrating, which is exciting to say. That we're getting down to. We still have maybe 8 illustrations in total like this that we have to work on. So we're getting pretty far down the pipeline of being done with all the significant illustrations here for the book, and then we'll just be needing to finish up the diagrams that we've been working on and put the book together and then publish it out. So that's honestly really exciting. So we're making our way down the pipeline here, guys. We're gonna get done sooner than later at this point. I like to refer to it as being knee deep in the muck, but we're on the other side of it, schlucking our way out of the pits. Let's go up here and is this the one I need to disable? It is. So let's re-enable here and get you out of that space like that. Pardon the pun. There. Keep it visible. Yeah, that's significant. We'll work on that. Cha-da-cha-da-cha-da-cha. So I'm here 6 days a week, here Monday through Friday morning like this. We work on artwork for the Spelljammer book on Mondays and Thursday nights. Like tonight, we work on the Eberron Adventure Cartography. and creature tokens for the adventure that we're creating. Tuesday, let's see, Saturday morning, we work on commissions or personal projects, just depending on what I have on the roster. For now, I'm working on a book cover commission for Andy Headley, who was my partner in creating the Everon adventure. And let's see, Monday. Sometimes on Mondays, I think I have the capacity today to work, just to do some streaming here on Monday. And my Monday streams, I typically stick to notifications just on Twitter, so they don't have a high audience. But if you like the stuff that I do and you're interested in seeing more, then definitely follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney so that you can get notifications of the Monday stream, which I should be continuing looking at the Eldrazi Monstrous Compendium that was placed on D&D Beyond a couple weeks ago. I've been slowly picking at the different Magic the Gathering creatures that were created for Dungeons and Dragons there, and we're doing some light color analysis of how the creatures are representing the colors that they belong to in Magic the Gathering. How are they translated into Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and what lessons might we glean from the Wizards' take on what different D&D creatures would look like from Magic the Gathering translated into Dungeons and Dragons, which is exactly what they did. They did that with Strixhaven, Theros, Ravnica, a number of different creatures with different color identities built into the world of D&D using D&D language. So we're going to continue analysis and breakdown of the Eldraine that just recently came out. And we've got a document on my Patreon that's been processing through that. So if you haven't seen my Patreon, it's also Phil Kearney. It's linked down below. There's a lot of freebies, playtest content, and some articles just about different D&D gaming philosophy, like running games and stuff, that you are welcome to check out. And I would love to have your support there to continue further misbehavior. These are fun to do. Light and casual. It's just texturing and smudging paint around. It's really relaxing to create different rock effects in space. It's just fun. Now that we're getting that mostly resolved, we've got a good idea of what our backdrop is for where we need to put, where we need to drop in contrast. Let's see. I think I'm pretty good there. So I'm gonna. Good morning. Hey, if you're dropping by and checking out the channel, be welcome to drop in the chat and say hello. Love to hear from you. And there we go. There's our timer. So I'm going to take a water chaser here. Keep the whistle wet. Meanwhile, the coffee bean calls us all. Okay, great. So we're going to continue working on the Spidercraft here, and then we'll work on the Night Spider, and then we'll clean up the crew here and move forward. So let's see. I think this week I'm streaming on Wednesday night instead of Thursday night for Eberron. I've got a Thursday night thing I'm doing, and then I've got I'll be here for Friday morning, but this Saturday morning I'm going to a Tool concert down in Tacoma, so I'm going to be at the Emerald Queen on Friday night and Saturday. So I shan't be streaming Saturday morning this week. We'll be off this week. So I think I'm going to squeeze in some time, possibly on, let's see. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to squeeze in time. We might just have to call. We'll just have to call Saturday off for this week. Let's see. Let's focus in on the Spiderling and keep working on it. Whole legs. Let's go here and go legs. Top deck. Let's take this. Let's switch back to a round brush. And our normal smudge brush. I'm grabbing a layer here, here. All right, we'll play with that for now. Yeah, that'll work. Merge those down, and then we'll erase off the margins here. There, good. Cool. We have that locked down. Four. Here, a little floor hatch. We'll need to build a mounted weapon up top, front and back, and then we also need to drop a ballista onto the lower deck. And then we'll need to decal, fix the legs. Okay, great. So the next thing we need to therefore do is start building weapons. The hole's looking pretty good. The floor's pretty good. This is at a decent spot for us to start in on that process. So let's build a new folder here. Call it weapons. There you go. With a big W. Like anyone can read that. I know the gods of YouTube are angry at me for not playing their algorithm game the way that they want it to. I can tell that I've had a drop in visibility lately. That's probably my fault for not knowing how to YouTube properly, which is why people supporting the channel and subscribing is so important, because it's difficult for a channel like this with like such a mix, like mixing the identity between like D&D prep, game design, and artwork is like. YouTube would rather see me split that into 3 different channels, but I think that would be maybe I'll agree with that someday. But as it stands right now, it just feels more appropriate that I have all of this stuff happening on the same channel, because it's all interrelated, and the artwork and the design and the production, it's all the same thing of creating a role-playing game, but it comes off as a mixed channel, so we'll see. I'm being hazed. I'm being hazed right now by the algorithms, asking me to try to pick a path, and say I just don't want to. There's our mounting block. Of this song. Music is such a privilege. Try this one. It's just a little block, dude. You shouldn't be this difficult. If this is the greatest challenge of this illustration, then I am blessed. The new Dungeons and Dragons playtest content, not the new number 7 with the sorcerers really reminded me how much I want to get the 5e spell point sorcerer that I had been working on prior to this project. How much I want to revisit and get that published, because it's fun. It's super fun. Not everyone agrees that with spell points as a base chassis for your spell casting resources, but I think it is just ridiculously fun, and I'm looking forward to adding that to the bundle that we have down below for the color mana spell points. The sorcerer is just, I think it's some of our best work. When I finish my current Saturday morning commission, I think I might be spending some time on polishing up and finishing the spell point sorcerer thing that we've been building. I'll need to hire a playtest. I'll need to hire a. The playtest is fine. I'll need to hire an editor to help make sure I wordsmithed it good. And probably just pay him out of pocket. I don't know how popular or how much money I'm going to generate on books on the DMsGuild at this point, but that's kind of where the spell point system is at. So that's where I'm going to stick publishing it. And then once the new D&D content is finalized and published by Wizards, then I'll be open to translate all of the color mana stuff that we had built into the whatever the new edition is going to be called, 6e or whatever. We'll have a chance to build out that, and then we'll have all. We should have. Well, we still arguably still have like spell point artificer to finish. But at that point we'll have basically everything that was needed. So we have Spellpoint Warlock out already. We have the base book out already. We have Martial Powers well underway, and we're going to start playtesting for that. Looks like we'll start playtesting for the Martial Power system probably in the new year. Hey Karn, how you doing? It's good to see you around. But I really like where we're at with the Spellpoint Sorcerer. Basically creating more meta magic options, and then adding meta magic as spells that sorcerers can pick, and then integrating the spell points, the sorcerer points into the main spell point pool that you have. So like, if you check out the stuff that I have linked down below for spell points, you can look at all this stuff as free previews for anyone that's not familiar with it already. But the gist is simplifying spell point purchases. Well, Wizards of the Coast has a really clumsy spell point system that they offer in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I think it's clumsy on purpose to keep people from wondering why the hell we don't just use spell points all the time. So as you know, I mean, conspiracy theories aside, that's the only reason I can see why we wouldn't want to use spell points all the time anyways, because Wizards made it so clumsy. So people are like, yeah, we'll just use spell slots because of legacy. But I sincerely believe that spell points is a superior mana option for spellcasters in any game beyond spell slots. So, but there's a pool of sorcerer points that sorcerers can use to do cool things that are separate from the spell slots that they have in the current edition of D&D. And my big brain idea is that the spell points should be using a spell point system, the sorcery points and the spell points can be folded into the same resource pool. And with the system that I have, it's basically a 20th level full casting character like a druid, a cleric, a wizard, a sorcerer, has 80 spell points at 20th level to spend on casting spells, but the sorcerer can then fold their 20 sorcery points into the main mana pool to have 100 spell points instead of 80 and 20, 80 spell points and 20 sorcery points. So by folding them into the same resource, it allows us a lot more flexibility to then offer meta magic options as an alternate spell that you can learn. Like if you can learn 16 spells and 4 meta magics, by folding everything together, it then becomes you can learn 20 spells. And if you don't want to use a bunch of meta magic to modify the spells that you have, and you instead just want to use that resource to like gain advantage on attack rolls and stuff like that instead, then that's your choice as an action loop that you can establish for your own character, like as a blaster. But if you want to really hype up like sculpting spells, reshaping them, changing the damage, adding kicker effects to spells that target creatures and stuff, then you can learn a small number of spells and then a large number of meta magic that can modify the spells that you know to again choose for yourself what kind of an action loop that you want to create for your character to help your team. And I think that's a much more fun narrative to open up options like that than where Wizards is typically willing to go. Because Wizards tends to try to keep things as simple as possible. They want to apply to the widest audience as they can. So by keeping things stupid simple, they can attract first-time role players that might be I guess in their opinion, overwhelmed, quote unquote, by the different options that could happen inside of character creation or D&D gameplay. But as you move out of that novice state into system mastery, potentially as little as say 20 hours of gameplay, then you could already be looking for more complexity in ways of expressing your character and building different action value inside of your character. And there's no further depth that Wizards provides than the novice introduction approach to the classes. So that system mastery, that yearning for system mastery is a niche that doesn't exist inside of 5th edition. That was very prevalent in 3rd and mostly in 3rd edition, honestly. 3rd edition was the first edition that Wizards produced that encouraged system mastery, and I think the lesson that they gained from that was don't force system mastery onto casual players. Let casual players discover that mastery if they want it for themselves, but they have to discover it outside of 5e content. Their original design philosophy was to have a basic system, an intermediary, and then an expert system. And that when Mike Merles got canceled out of the D&D game space as a designer, they kind of lost their lead designer for 5th edition. So now they have the people that remain are basically novices that don't have apparently the experience to be able to create those higher levels of novice, like beyond the novice level. That's all they designed for now. It might be that they just lack designers that have system mastery over 5e to be able to fill that gap, or they feel that there's not enough people, they don't have enough retention to warrant that deeper level of mastery, which is a shame. It doesn't speak well to retention for the game in general. But there we go. We have 2 blocks that we've built here. And we can now start putting weapons on those blocks. And then beyond that, legs here. But I mean, I spent a lot of time dogging on Wizards of the Coast. Their priority and they feel responsibility is creating the most approachable basic mechanics for the game because most likely if they're going to introduce a new gamer, it's going to be through official Wizards of the Coast content. It's not going to be through some random homebrew. So it's appropriate that the system that they present, the basic books, remain that, just basic, so that people can grok the system. And then if they want to explore and learn other things, then they can step outside of the basic content that Wizards provides and explore, you know, third-party publishing content. But you don't get there until you start burning out on the game. So I had that experience as a 3rd edition player, that there was so much, and this is the irony, Wizards pumped out so much content for 3rd edition that I never felt the desire to go looking for third-party sources for new content. Because I couldn't get, they were releasing 2 books a month during 3rd edition of player and DM options and campaign options. Like the pace that they cracked through stuff was insane. There was no way to get bored with what they were producing. So I never had the urge to go create or find new content. But 5e production, Wizards puts out books so slowly for character options now that it's pretty realistic that people are looking. I mean, there's a huge third-party market for 5th edition that is, I think, much more, at least I desired a lot more than I did in 3rd edition. Again, I never got bored of content that Wizards put out in 3rd edition. But they're so slow to create ideas now that there's a severe yearning in the audience base for just more than what Wizards is able or willing to produce. So it's interesting. It's interesting how this third market has evolved as a result of that. I'm going to tilt this leg up like that. Let's grab some references here. See those legs. Open up the weapons again. Drop down to here. Let's build this back gun first. Hey, you're off work today. Good on you. Wish I could say the same. I'd love to do this all day. But we have to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and put in our hours of grind to earn our lifestyle to be able to kick back, relax, and have fun. Yeah, it was just 3E was magical. They really caught lightning in a bottle with that system, and I think they knew it. I really think they knew they had something special. It's and it was interesting to see how the cracks in that system eventually showed up, like the bonus bloat, I guess, is for lack of a better word. But you had to run the game for like a while to really pick up and become disillusioned by that blow, because it was just such a new experience. It was a novel game. Like the D20 is just like it was literally genre defining. Like once D20 was out there, like that was obviously a massive contender in the role playing marketplace in general. As crappily as Wizards has been with PR lately and its fan base, they really did just really hit a home run with just D20 in general. That really just can't be de-emphasized at all. It kind of says, when they want to, they can crush it. Which I think is why everyone is so split about the new content that they've been producing, because they've seen what Wizards is capable of doing, and it's different. It just feels different under Hasbro. But hey, that's evolution, right? We'll see what the new game becomes. There's some good stuff that's in there. It's whether we can parse out the good from the bad and keep the game fun. It's questionable. But I have hopes. I'm so in love with the different settings that Wizards inherited by you know, taking ownership of WotC. It's the legacy, like the Planescape, the Spelljammer, the Dark Sun. Those are such just compelling settings, and there was so much. Here's the problem with TSR. I've talked about this. There's so much content. There's like 5 box sets for Planescape, and like 30 adventures and additional supplements. Like there was so much content that they punched out for those settings. Like, look at this stuff that we are building for you, and they literally drove themselves into bankruptcy building content for the fan base. Like, against all logic and reason, they really served up content for the fans, and that is something I think that Wizards is desperately trying to avoid doing. Is that they want to build content that's either going to have high marketability that they can afford to print, or they are going to have the option of creating more niche content through D&D Beyond, which is obviously demonstrated through the DMsGuild, where I publish my stuff, the third party. They have so much game info in 3-5 books they could update it and publish it. Yeah, I know, right? That was my comment. Like everyone is in love with the Cunning Strikes, but that was in the 3rd edition Complete Scoundrels. It was one of the skill tricks that they came out with in late 3.5, where you could sacrifice D6s and have kicker effects. It's the exact same system. It's just been updated for 5e, and it's like I don't know why Wizards wouldn't call back to the content that they own. It's their own content. I mean, like, yeah, we explored this in 3e. It was very popular. There was a ton of content being put out there, and there's some gems there that we think would belong in 5e, and they could speak to their legacy and get more engagement. And they still sell all those books on DTRPG, DMsGuild, probably on Amazon. I haven't bothered looking, but they can still get revenue off of those books if they made reference to it. And they'd have access to all the lore and depth. It's like, hey, you don't need to add lore. Here's all the books. But that probably doesn't come off as friendly to new gamers. That probably only appeals to old schools like us. So they have their own identity issue. Are they trying to gather in new fans that they want to have blank slates and not overwhelm with options? Or do they want to lean into this is how much depth this game has, this is the level of depth you can dive into the lore of this phenomenon? Like I feel like they could lean into and afford to get lost inside of that stuff. Oh my god, Ghostwalker was cool as shit. I ran an Eberron campaign for somebody that kitted out. It was not a Ghostwalk campaign, but they built a Ghostwalk character that specialized in possessing and telekinesis. So their whole 3E build was basically a mix of the Possessor Eberron option of being a possessing demon, and mixed it with Saltmarsh for the ghost character. So they had thralls of willing subjects that were followers using the 3E leadership mechanics that were anxious to be possessed by the characters. So you always had a willing vessel to run around inside of. It was pretty fun. They had an airship fortress as a home base, quote unquote bastion, that we would. God, we had whole sessions of just playing poker in character, talking shit at each other about things that supposedly happened in the character's background. That was just fun. That was a lot of fun. That was a great era. That was a great era. Gun off the back. Let's see. Where are we at with this? Oh, that's essentially what we're doing here. Grab our string. I played ghost characters, became the best. No kidding. It was fun. I mean, the DM had to do a lot of work with having a lot of ethereal or just similarly themed, like anti-ghost organizations or you know, competing ghost entities or organizations. Like anytime the players do something, the DM kind of has to match suit and have an NPC organization that can match against them. Otherwise, the team is able to out-exploit the campaign of normals that you see in the game. Excuse me, hiccups. Hey-oh. But that was a huge, you know, a huge appeal of 3E is how much cool content that they put out. Small pixels trying to make this thing fit proper. Good, and then we can there we go. I'm going to merge these two things down together. I'm going to cut here. There. Now we can fold these in. Front block. Get better at making these little turrets. Have you ever had Griselda's Guide of Ghost Hunting? Have you ever heard of? No, I have not heard of that. I think I've heard of the name T.A. Gray. But I could just be imagining that I have. I'm awfully good at imagining things. it's like the 6th time I've illustrated one of these little gun turrets, these harpoon flingers. I think I'm getting pretty good about getting them down. I think the saddest process, the saddest part of these processes is that I get really good at illustrating specific assets, and then the book is over, and I don't need to know how to make those assets anymore. You know, the book is made, it's done. I know it feeds in as like I'll always be able to make siege weapons after building this book, which is a massive victory. I'm a lot more confident in creating structures and ships and stuff. That's also a significant victory, but it's a temporary need with a temporary gain. I keep creating new things, and I kind of how do I want to put this? I would like to get to a point where I'm done building systems and that I can start building content for those systems, which kind of implies that I should be building my own role-playing game. But I just love building this content so much. I get inspired to like create like a whole new thing. Like I've been working on Guilds and Kingdoms for a while. Like the Bastion system comes out, I'm like, God, I'm compelled to build 200 pages of content to prove how cool Bastions could be. like really over the top. Cross here. I can only really describe what the affliction I have is like hold my beeritis, where wizards will produce something that's like, oh, I could do this better. And then devote a year to making it better, and then we'll you know, like with Spelljammer here, I'm so late to market. We'll see if it even matters, if I'm able to draw any attention with the work that we're doing here. Potentially not. It's a form of chip on your shoulder. Yeah, I don't think you can build an undead character. He does give some good ghost lore. Ah, right on. I was liking how they were exploring having multiple types, like humanoid and monsters, humanoid and undead, humanoid and construct. I think there's value in that space, but you have to have. I'm not 100% on it though about how to treat different types of creatures in general. String should be on a separate layer. Here to here. Here to here, and erase there, here like that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. There, cool. Gun racks. Now we need to build a ballista, and then we'll put in peoples. Oh my god, come on, buddy. No, alright, fuck it, never mind. I thought I was going to be able to label that ballista. Not like you could read any of that stuff. These things are so deep. Like I'm on my... I've been working on this particular chain of document, and we got like, what, 15 pages inside of it? We're like up to the 2000th layer. No, we're only like at hold on. Let's layer 1364. That's how far into this document we've gotten. It's a little insane. Do that. I'll have this turret here. So, yeah, it's a 107-page book, right? It'll probably end up being 108 pages when we're done. Like after, I suspect there's some fluff that we need to add in someplace. But yeah, it's going to be 108 some odd pages. It's a lot of illustrations. It's a lot of work, but it's totally worth it. So we're gonna build the turret here, and then we're probably gonna end up building like building this lip up like that to build a little bit more protection. I actually like that line a lot. Front grill. Curve in there, make it feel good. Just like that, feels good. Well, now I got feel good ink in my head. Way to go, girls. How are you doing on time? What is it, like 7:30? 7:19, close. My microphone, keep my microphone close to my face here. ASMR. Come on, buddy. Nice. Gotta keep shoring that up. There. Okay, that's good enough. Baka 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 pop pop. There. Let's go back and grab our color here for our disc. Like that. I haven't drawn a ballista face forward like this yet, so this will be a bit of a challenge. I'm hoping it's not a significant challenge. We won't know until we try. I'm going to rearrange my chair so I can settle in. Architecture like this is always a little intimidating, so I always need a few moments of ramping up for me to not be intimidated by it. So I'm going to use my skew. Drop this down a touch and raise that up. Just to keep the angle a little bit more reasonable for it. Let's see. We've got about 40 minutes for me to figure this out. It shouldn't take that long. We're just gonna have to build it layer by layer. So let's pick our colors that we need. We need here and we need here. We're going to build our base iframe like here. Let's make sure we're doing a full job here. This like that. Nice. My sense of perspective is really ramped up during this project. You can never be too good at perspective and all those just fundamentals, like just yeah, that's the way to say it. Fundamentals. You can never get too good with them. Huh. I wonder where that little speck is coming from. It must be an asteroid speck. Hold on, I have to hunt that down before I lose it. Yep, I was right. Which means it should be here. But it's not, so maybe it's here? There you go. If you don't correct the problems when you first find them, there's no guarantee you're ever going to find them again. So, got to get after it when you see it. that leads me to like endless tangents, especially like when I'm inside the book, like when I'm looking at placing the artwork that I've created onto the page. And I'll be reading a chunk of text that isn't related to the thing that I'm at, just because it grabbed my attention. I'm like, oh shit, and then I have to spend like 2 or 3 hours on changing the way that the text reads for whatever reason it is. There's endless reasons. Like I don't like the way that it sits, or I know that there's a better way for us to express the whatever mechanic it is that we're dealing with. I'm speaking very vaguely, but there's like a million little things that I end up going through and correcting on stuff. Just like I know there's better ways of saying things. Like it's like if I'm doing a diagram, like adding a couple letters, you know, like A, B, C, and then like adding D and E to be even more specific about the sequencing of something. Floating leaf. Tell you what, if I can finish up this turret right now, we'll go look at some of the other at some of the diagrams that I've been creating off camera in my spare time, because I'm really happy with how we're getting those diagrams built at this point. But they're not necessarily very exciting for people to watch. Not the same as illustration, because it's a lot of just graphic design work, which isn't as doesn't have as much of an audience. Like people aren't scrambling on to watch people do graphic design work. I've done graphic design work in the past, and the numbers are always horrible. It's just people bounce off of it. They want to see illustrations. They want to see design. They want to see opinions, and that's about it. Working up that curve there to get this frame structure built proper. There we go. Eye. So that's our base eye frame that we have for all of our turrets. And then we're going to add another layer, and we're going to put our highlight layer on top of that. I use ballistas a lot more than catapults because you can have more bolts per ton, so you have more ammunition available. And even though they do less, they do D4 times 10 damage versus the catapult's D6 times damage. So you have, and the reload score is lower, so you can have a not as well trained crew working. There's that. Hold on. Here. Good. So you can have a less skilled siege crew working a ballista than a catapult. The reload score for a ballista has a base of 3. Which is reduced by the rank of your crew, which is the minimum rank is 1. So a reload score of 2, and again, for those that aren't indoctrinated to the system yet, instead of having a proficiency bonus when you make attack rolls with siege weapons, you roll a proficiency die, which is one of the variant rules inside of the DMsGuild, inside of the Dungeon Master's Guide. I forget what page that variant rule is on, but basically it's like at when you have a +2 bonus to your proficiency bonus, that converts into a D4. If you have a +3, it's a D6, and it goes up to, instead of a +6, it's a D12. So there's a lot more variables of being able, like the proficiency bonus is a reliable bonus that you have, which is great for your individual character skills, sure. But when you're working multiple crew, when you have multiple creatures that are coordinating their actions to perform a feat, such as firing, like aiming, firing, and reloading a siege weapon, there's a lot more variables that could go wrong, and that's expressed by the proficiency die. So, or what we call a command die in this supplement. So when you're reloading a weapon, the reload score is the result that you need on your proficiency die or your command die to be able to automatically reload the weapon as part of the attack action that you made that caused you to roll the proficiency die in the first place. So if I'm going to roll a d20 and like I'm like say got a static +3 bonus because of my ability score, and then I'm 6th level, so I'm rolling a d6, and I could like roll a 14 on my d20, a 5 on my d6, so that's going to be 14 plus 5 is a 19, plus like say my +3 ability point bonus, that's going to be an armor class 22. That's an attack roll of 22. And my proficiency die was a roll of a 4, which means like if a ballista has a reload score of 2, because it's 3 minus, say, first rank, it's only 2. On that d6, if I roll a 2 or above, I automatically reload the weapon and I can fire it again. But like a catapult has a reload score of 5. So like if I only rolled a 3 on my d6 and I'm firing a catapult, I'm now going to have to waste an action having the crew reload the weapon instead of firing. So having a lower reload score is good, which you can gain either by having a higher rank crew, which is more expensive for you to hire and maintain, like giving them a larger portion of loot. Or you can use a weapon with a lower reload score, which is going to be a ballista. So like a third rank ballista crew is going to drop the reload score to a 1, which means they're automatically going to be reload and fire the weapon every round. Technically, with a reload score of 3, you only need a second rank crew. Base reload score minus crew rank equals 1. So on a d6, d4, d8, no matter what, a 1 is automatically going to reload the score. So anyway, there's the thoughts behind that. You're disappointed with the current edition? Yeah. Oh my god, Spelljammer was so fucking cool back in 2nd edition. I have a flaw with my angle. Like, if I were to straight lace this, it should be... like, that's the angle that it should be if I'm only firing forward. But it looks like I'm actually at a little bit of an angle. So I'm okay with that flaw being there because that means that they're actually firing this direction, which is towards the current weapon crew. So that's actually appropriate. So I think I can afford to keep that. But god, yeah, like 2nd edition Spelljammer was fucking awesome. There was so much going. God, that just sparked the imagination. So heavy. I like the novels. The depiction of the Inhuman War, like the orcs versus elves. Ooh, it was legendary. Just legendary shit. Let's keep building this. I can feel myself attempting to be distracted. So let's keep... our angles are good, so we can keep building. So let's see. We want to have a base. We have the base. So now we can afford to build our eye. Our smaller frame eye inside of the larger base. The stabilizer. This reminds me of Legos. I used to build Lego kits all the time when I was a little kid. And it was fun to build, like to follow the instructions to complete the build that they provided. But, you know, as soon as you're done with that, I didn't like keeping them like as models. I like tearing them apart and building my own stuff. Which was really fun thing about Legos. You can either, you know, keep them up as a display as completed collections. or tear them apart and rebuild them. And I guess there was like a sub-market for collecting, like collectible Lego sets that you don't open them. Like you never open them, you just leave them sealed in their original box and sell them like, you know, action figures, like collectible action figures and stuff. You don't play with them, you just collect them. I guess Lego has a third-party market like that as well, but it apparently isn't as strong as Magic the Gathering cards are. Because you know what you're going to get in your box of Legos. You know, pieces included equal, it's guaranteed to know what pieces you're going to get. As opposed to like Magic the Gathering has like that randomness of what cards are like rarity that you're going to get, and they have different values based on the rarities. That is a very different type of sub-market. But Legos has one too, which I found out about recently. I thought that was... Well, it made sense. There, and now we build this, a curve into it. The Legos are like this, build your base plate, like it would show you what pieces you put in, and you just stack up the structure from like almost like 3D printing. You build up the structure from the base to the top and let it render out. That's essentially the process that we're following here right now. We're basically 3D rendering as pixels how to build this ballista. Frame by frame, building up from the base. That feels good. Put some grit around it to help separate one layer from another. Like that. Cool. Now we can put in our next layer, which is going to be the this main shaft here. I don't know what the word for that is. Trim that down, keep it straight. There we go. Let's build another layer on top of that and get our gearbox going in here. Here we're going to put in our draw crank here. Like that. Very simple. Next, we want to put in the cross beam. It sadly covers up a lot of the cool work that we've been doing, but we know it's back in there. That. We're doing good. We should have this finished up here in just a minute. That. Just like that. Nice. This is just coming together very, very nicely. Next up is the bolt. Let's free transform and squeeze that up a touch. Perfect. Just a touch. There. Perfect. Cool. Okay, so we now have a ballista. It is a good enough ballista. It works. It accomplishes the structure that we needed. So cool. We got those down. We have all of our weapons resolved. Now we need to, let's add in the front grille. That now feels honestly a little off. So let's bend that down a bit, like maybe like that. Nice. Still need crew. I feel like we can take that whole ballista and make it just a touch bigger. Perfect. Cool. Now let's find ourselves. Yeah, let's find ourselves a crew. I think we want to make that and that just a touch smaller. These harpoon flingers do 2d8 damage, while this does d4 times 10. So this is effectively 5d8 damage versus this being 2d8 damage. So this is 2.5 times stronger than these harpoon flingers are. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm properly sizing the ballista. There we go. That's better. There. Now that feels more proportional. There. That feels like a better angle. Dude, we knocked those down quick, man. It used to take me an hour a piece. Like if you go back like 15 episodes ago, when I was building this this illustration here, it took me like an hour just to do this ballista, and it took an hour for me to do this ballista, and like 30 minutes to do each one of these mounted weapons, these harpoon flingers. But now I can crack through these things in like, what was that, like 15 minutes or so? That was a lot faster. We are getting much, much quicker at building these assets, and that's exciting. Like I was saying, it'll eventually become worthless as I move on to another project that doesn't need these assets. But it's really cool seeing how quickly we progress in being able to build them at all in the first place. So I'm excited about that. We still need to put some people in here, a guy here, some guys around here, to finish off the hull and weapon systems there. But we only have a few minutes left. So I'm going to go ahead and save there, and I'm going to show you some of the other illustrations that we've been building here off screen. So here is the first introduction to ship combat maps in different scales at the 500 foot, 50 foot, and 5 foot scales of ships. How the grids work and how things fit into them. Like at this scale, like if you had a 2 foot pixie in a dungeon at the 5 foot scale, like you normally would, it would fill one of these 5 foot spaces, even though it's sized tiny, and you know that you could fit 4 pixies into one of these squares because of the resolution of mapping in D&D defaults to the 5 foot square. Regardless of how small you are, you're still occupying a 5 foot square at dungeons. So in this scaling map system, here's our 5 foot square here, right, where I have everything parsed out. We have our catapults filling a 2x2 space. We have each one of these harpoon flingers fill a 5 foot square, like we had depicted on the other in the illustration we were doing. Ballast is down here filling a 2x2 space. Here filling a 2x2 space. That's the 5 foot scale where each creature can be represented running around the back of this thing. You got like you zoom in here, this is like 10 feet wide, right? So you can have a soldier here, 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 soldier here. You can fill in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 medium-sized creatures in this abdomen here as like as a beaching ship, like to unload troops onto. And then you got your ballistic here that takes crew, and then you got your seat up here, which is the helm where the captain sits. So these all fit. This is a 5 foot scale, right? And the hammerhead shark, or the hammerhead ship, is 250 feet. So it's 50 squares here at the 5 foot scale. That's your full ship. But when you're at the 50 foot scale, it's 5 feet, right? So it's 5 squares for 250 feet, and this flitter fits inside of a single 50 foot square. But then at the 500 foot scale, just like the pixie at the dungeon, both of these together, each of them fits in a 5 foot in a single 500 foot square, because that's the resolution of map that you're working with as individual ships. So that's the initial look at scaling. And then we have this next illustration that we've built out. There we go. Thank you. And we have our first difference in scaling. Boy, oh boy, this thing's really chugging slow right now. There we go. So we're looking at this. The illustration above depicts an asteroid base occupying a 1 mile space on a 500 foot scale map, A. And this is the Citadel of Light in the Light of Xeraxis adventure. A fleet of star moths and flitters, which is B. So you can see here B, these icons at the 500 foot scale, these ships, and then are defending the base from an enemy fleet, which is C here, the enemy fleet. The asteroid is a relatively immobile object on the map, and that can be used as a point of reference while ships move and make ranged attacks around it. When 2 or more ships occupy adjacent 500 foot squares, they can be placed on a 50 foot scale map as depicted in the middle. I could actually put in a letter D here and then go to here and then put in the letter D. That might actually be something we should do. Like put a letter D here for when these 2 ships close. When 2 or more ships occupy adjacent 500 foot squares, they can be placed on a 50 foot square map as depicted in the middle. So here we have these two or more ships that are adjacent at the 500 foot scale. We can now move to the 50 foot scale where we see multiple ships. So the illustration above depicts some of the defending star moths and flitters, A. You zoom in, you see flitters and star moths. This is a PDF, so you can actually zoom in this much if you need to, or you can just get the gist at this scale. Probably you as normal vision people can probably read comfortably at this scale all this text, and it all fits in nicely. But you can zoom in for the details if you want, and the details are there. And so this one says A, B, and then Some of the enemy hammerhead ships. B. Okay, so the illustration above depicts some of the defending star moths and flitters. A. I have a letter. I need and in here, but in the actual text. Hold on, let's go to the actual text document. Yeah. We actually have this one inserted here as a sample. So, let's see. The illustration above depicts some of the defending star moths and flitters. A. Some of... I should have a comma. That's what I'm missing. No, and... Oh, jinxies. I left the text in place. Let's get rid of that. Flitters and... There. And some of the enemy hammerhead ships B occupying adjacent 500-foot spaces on a 50-foot scale map while still present on the 500-foot scale map to the left. So we have to include that and. When two or more ships occupy the same or adjacent 50-foot squares, such as the flitter ship entering the space of the closest hammerhead ship above, C, which we have, which we have here, C, indicating movement, When two or more ships occupy the same or adjacent 50-foot squares, such as the flitter ship entering the space of the closest hammerhead ship above, they can be placed on a 5-foot square map as depicted to the right. So then we have here, ship entering space of the hammerhead ship C. We then have the hammerhead ship occupying the same space as the flitter on the 5-foot map depicted to the right. 5-foot map, 5-foot scale. The illustration above depicts a flitter boarding party, A, landing on the deck of a hammerhead ship, B. On a 5-foot scale map, while still present on the 500 and 50-foot scale maps to the left. This is the normal scale used during typical combat between characters and monsters. You can minimize the size of 5-foot scale maps during ship combat by dividing ship deck plans into 10 by 10 sections, only placing the ones in use each round, adding or changing sections as needed. So we have 1, 2, 3 sections of this 500-foot hammerhead ship. We only need 1 and 2 here, but we wanted to have the rest of the siege weapons at the front end of the ship for targets for these guys to go up and attack. So, but that's how we can scale between these 3 scales of combat. There, we're still in the process of building this one, talking about movement between different scales, which we'll finish probably tonight or tomorrow off camera. And we have this this landing, or like scaling into land and engage at lower scales. Here is aligning gravity planes, where we're looking at a diagram of showing that, like, when you're grappling and aligning your gravity plane, if you're so small that you can occupy the space of a ship, when that ship moves, if your gravity plane is aligned with it, it can actually carry you, kind of like you're towing it. So like this little fighter craft stays inside the space of this galleon ship, even though this galleon is running away from this night spider. The night spider's too big to occupy this, to fully occupy the space of this galleon. So when the galleon moves, it separates from the night spider here at B. But here at A, this spiderling fighter craft stays inside of the space. So these are things that you have to think about, different scales of objects, which are very niche rules that I don't blame Wizards for not spending time talking about, because the stuff is complicated. So we have to break it down. We have to parse it out, kind of like opportunity attacks, talking about being inside of the space or outside of the space, and reach of weapons, like with large size and huge size creatures versus medium size or tiny size creatures, having different reach. There's also different placement that you can have of different size ships inside of each other's space, as though like riding them like a horse, or being too big that you can occupy space and you can interact with them together, but when they separate from each other, then you lose that reach. So these are all pretty specific mechanics that are needed to express large-scale vehicle combat like this. That is kind of glossed over and ignored by Wizards, being that like, well, the DM can just narrate it and explain it however you want. It's your game. But that's not giving. That's like, just use your own rulings to decide how you want space combat to work. But you need to have rules to make rulings. So we're trying to provide some base physics and mechanics of how ships and different size objects can interact with each other in the void, so that you can then, once you understand and just absorb the information, then you don't have to worry about all these technical bits. You just get it. And it just becomes part of the narrative. But you'll have that underlying level of understanding of how physics works for you to make all this stuff work. So anyway, that's the endeavors that we work with, and we have to use this different link. Like this clear arrow here is indicating that you're riding inside of somebody's gravity, inside of somebody's space, as opposed to movement. Here, we're using a solid arrow showing that this galleon is the one that's moving. But here we can show that this spiderling is being carried because it's a transparent, or it's an empty arrow as opposed to a solid arrow. And here we only have a line because it's indicating this hitbox is moving, and that's where the spiderling, where this night spider had ties or a hold on this galleon ship, right? But as the galleon moves away, the night spider loses that grip because the night spider's too big to stay inside of the space. So when the galleon tries to move away, it could make an opportunity attack to try to grab hold and keep it still, but that's a different section of the book. This is just explaining how gravity planes work, and you have to have your gravity plane aligned to be able to ride in somebody's space. This night spider's too big to ride inside of the galleon, but if the galleon was completely inside the space of this night spider, it would be able to ride the night spider's space just like the spiderling can ride inside the space of this galleon. It's just a matter of scale and size. Can you fill that? Can you occupy that space, or can't you? The night spider's too big to occupy the space of the galleon, so when the galleon moves, the night spider doesn't move with it. The spiderling is small enough to occupy space inside of the galleon space, so when the galleon moves, the spiderling moves with it. Unless the spiderling specifically chose to not move with it, but these larger ships can move faster than these fighter craft. So the job of a fighter craft is to get inside the space of a target so it can stay inside of there and piggyback on it and keep making attacks at it while it tries to run away. A night spider, being a larger ship, its objective would be to stay in range to attack it and to make grappling checks to lock onto and prevent that ship from moving at all because of grappling. But if the night spider can't successfully grapple this galleon, it can get away. It can't so easily get away from a fighter craft that's inside of its space. So it then has to use disengage action to like shake free of the spiderling so it could be able to move away from it without the spiderling tagging along. But that requires you to use the disengage action to shake it loose. Just like you have to use actions to break a grapple so you can move away, you'd have to use an attack to break your grapple. You would then have to use your move action to disengage to break this spiderling off. And then you'd have to use your dash action to be able to actually move away, because you had to break a grapple, you had to disengage, and now you have to move. So that pilot is eating up all of its action economy, just shaking enemies off of it. Thank God you have teammates to be able to make weapon attacks with range, like with the siege weapons, to make attacks on this ship and this ship, to be able to damage them while your galleon's trying to get away. So your team working together as a team makes a lot of sense to be able to do that, but they're all acting on behalf of the ship as a whole. So anyway, that's some of the mechanics that go into that. And we are now over time. I'm going to have to go ahead and cut it today. So when we come back in the evenings, I continue working on these different ship maps to build out all this stuff in the background. And when I come back on tomorrow morning, we're going to continue working on this illustration. And when it's finished, we'll move on to the next illustration. So we just keep pushing our way through illustrations here during stream. In the evening, we work on the diagrams. And when all that's done, we'll publish it, and you'll be able to read all this as a preview anyway. So if you think the stuff is cool, you can use it. So, hey, thanks a lot for being here. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your day off, Karen. I will see everybody tonight in about 11 hours. I'll be back on doing Eberron stuff. And I should be back in about 4 or 5 hours to look at some more of the Eldraine monsters that were released on D&D Beyond. But in the meantime, catch you guys later. Thanks a lot for being here. Cheers.